सहनावनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om, peace, peace, peace. Welcome. Welcome to the class on fundamentals on Vedanta. Our effort over this and next couple of sessions is to understand a very basic outline of this system of exploring and understanding the self, this world, and God. These are the three very essential components of our existence. Who am I? What is my relationship with this world? And is there a God? And how can I connect with that God? Do you agree? So these three very important attributes, features of our human life are explored in Vedanta Darshan. You will explore along with me and you will understand certain very root questions as to why you feel the way you feel, what is the way out of the quagmire of suffering, and how is it possible for us, each one of us, to transcend this suffering. When the academic quest for knowledge ends and the experiential quest for truth begins, then we are talking Vedanta. Then we have gone beyond abstract philosophy into the realm of experiential truth. And this experiential truth, recorded in our source texts such as the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, validate again and again, as I mentioned last time, the transcendental experiences of people in all eras, all times, and all lands. So therefore, these transcendental experiences are not unique or typical to a group of people, but they seem to be what occurs, what happens, what is experienced, and that record of when the human being comes face to face and in touch with its own supreme divine reality. These experiences, though of a transcendental nature, so sublime and seemingly mystical, that one would think that they come from a very emotional space and therefore they cannot possibly create a system of philosophy and quest and questioning such as Vedanta that can have certain rules or logic as a fundamental basis, substratum. But the Hindu thinkers, no matter how emotional and how out of the body they became in experience of their own divine truth, and yet when it came to creating systems or making a statement that would affect the generations of humanity to come, they would become very scientific. They would say that unless and until this spiritual quest is supported by hard reasoning, unless and until this spiritual experience can be corroborated by logic. Not till such time can we say that it is a truth, because it could well be the reverie of one human being. It could well be an altered state of mind of a certain sage that we are recording and revering. That was not okay. So therefore, reasoning has played a very big role, and it is very unique in the system of Vedanta that I teach, that my lineage has been teaching, which is called the Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual school of Vedanta. It is considered as one of the most difficult schools of thought, and yet I have found that once we allow ourselves to listen to and absorb new ways of testing and looking at reality, it is the easiest school of thought. And it provides answers to our very complex questions, challenges. So, hundreds of commentators have talked about Advaita Vedanta, but the one philosopher and commentator that I personally have studied a lot is Shankaracharya. And so I often quote from him also to you. There are other schools of Vedanta. They all support each other. They are different also. Their basic goal is the same, as I have mentioned to you before, which is self-realization. But we will explore this very pure and very original exposition of Vedanta. The testing of reality, as I mentioned to you last time, is a very important tool of reasoning. And the reality or the claim to reality that does not last or remain the same in the three states of time, past, present and future, in Vedanta, is not considered reality. Because what is truly real, absolutely real, will be changeless. And then we look at the world around us, and we found, to recapitulate, the pratibhasika reality or the reflectional reality. We found that there is a kind of reality that is there but not there. It comes but it disappears, as in we are walking in a desert and we see some water. We start walking towards it. It really looks like shimmering beautiful water, but there is no water. As in, there is a shell and we think there is silver there. Until such time we see the shell, we only see silver. As in, we see the reflection of our own self in a mirror, and for all purposes it truly is a presence in the mirror. But as soon as we move, there is no presence. So that which is for a very short time and then suddenly disappears and owes its existence to something more empirical is known as reflectional reality, and it truly is very individual to each one of us. The reflections I am seeing only I know. The reflections you are seeing only you know. The reflections you are seeing only you know. So therefore, this is pratibhasika, which totally depends upon something else. So in our last satsang, I had given you examples of how we can possibly look at this kind of reality, and we cannot call it non-reality because it does show up as in a dream. Somebody has become a pauper in a dream. They have lost all their money. They are looking for every penny to buy food. It is a very distressing experience even during their dream. When the dream is over, the person stops looking for every penny because they are mature enough to realize they were in a dream. But Vedanta doesn't just dismiss it, oh, that is not there. It says, yes, it was there, but it is not now here. But it was there for a brief period, and when it was, it impacted you and your consciousness. It was part of you. So therefore, it is a reflectional reality. From the reflectional reality, we understood that there is also something which is more pragmatic. It is called the empirical reality or the Vyavaharika reality. As in, when you see the same lecture on the YouTube video, you will see a shunya there. And I might also log on and see myself there, seeing myself give the same lecture. Definitely, we can all quickly conclude that the shunya on the YouTube video has definitely a less substantive reality than the shunya sitting in the sofa on her home. Do you agree? And watching this YouTube video. So therefore, that reflectional reality is pratibhasika, and the reality of the shunya sitting on the sofa is a vyavaharika or the empirical reality. But now comes the interesting part. Vedanta says that even the shunya sitting on the sofa is not real. Even the shunya sitting on the sofa is an appearance of something which is truly the substance. Substantiveness comes from the word substance, which has to have some substance. It cannot just come and go. It has to be. It is. Isness. Permanence. Is an intrinsic aspect of something that Vedanta would like to acknowledge as being a substance. So with Vedanta knowledge arises a new perspective that though the shunya on the sofa has the vyavaharik or the empirical reality, but even this empirical reality of shunya may not shunya consider as the final truth, because there is a higher truth to this shunya, and that is known as the paramarthika reality or the supreme reality or the absolute reality, which we also call as Brahman. Now, it is interesting that these three states of reality cannot mutually coexist, though they are there at the same time. For example, we see the silver in the shell. We move to pick it up because the mother of pearl is catching the sunlight and it looks like a piece of silver. And we move towards it. So what is attracting us is reflectional reality. It is only an appearance. But the moment we see it, we have come immediately into the pragmatic, empirical reality called a vyavaharika. And the moment we recognize the reality of the shell and myself, and how we are both appearances of that which is the ultimate substance, the paramarthika reality, and its state of consciousness arises within us. And once that state has awakened within us, or emerged within us, or dawned within us, one does not live there, says Vedanta. Because so long as one is in the body, one continues to transact in the Vyavaharika or the empirical realm. Because Vedanta is not so simplistic as to say that this world is an illusion. Whoever translated the first Sanskrit texts or the first lectures of their guru and called this world an illusion did some misservice in conveying a very core concept of Vedanta. And the misservice is that Vedanta says this empirical world is not a non-reality. It exists. The only thing is that it is not the absolute reality. But so long as we are caught up between reflectional and empirical reality, this is our reality. Its trees, its mountains, its gods, its hell and its heaven impact us. But the invitation Vedanta is giving us is to begin to discriminate between what is nitya, what will last, what is anitya, what is temporary. And clearly, even in this small description that I provided you, we begin to understand as a tool of honing our own reasoning and discrimination and logic that definitely to fall in complete hypnosis of reflections is not necessary. These are appearances. To take too much for granted the isness of even this pragmatic empirical world is not necessary. Why not we begin to explore what is that true highest reality, and to be reality in Vedanta, this highest supreme reality, which as you know we call Brahman, it will withstand the test of time. It is unchanging, it is limitless, it is enduring, it is unmoving, it is a reservoir of infiniteness, fullness, illumination, because of which we have being, we are illumined, and we have understanding. So the reflectional reality, as I mentioned, is private to each one of us. The Vyavaharika or the empirical reality is common to all of us. We are all sharing one common reality right now. Do you agree? It is our common reality. But right now in the middle of this satsang, one of you can begin dreaming and you can enter a pratibhasika or reflectional state of reality. Are you following? And paramarthika or the ultimate reality will be known only to that rare jnani, the knower. Only to that rare being. This ultimate reality will be known. And this ultimate reality became the God, the quest, the passion, the devotion, and the love affair of the sages. They were no longer trying to bash up this empirical reality. They try to make it as beautiful as possible. In fact, they said that all spiritual journey, including the one to the final destination of moksha, which is the oneness with this ultimate reality, begins in this dual state of the empirical reality. The tree that has to be planted of devotion, bhakti, spirituality has to be planted in this pragmatic state. So there was no shunning of this world. There was not even a shunning of its gods. Sometimes there is a criticism that Advaita Vedanta does not give great credit to God. Advaita Vedanta clarifies, what do we have but God to resort to in this state? But in the absolute reality, the God is that, because of which the God is possible here. And that cannot be defined even by language. So most sages talk of that which cannot be talked about, cannot be mentioned, cannot be spoken, because language too is part of a phenomena of this reality. Time, space, causation, they all come to a null. And they are all merely reflections and appearances of that reality which is Brahman. And that Brahman then becomes the central focus of Vedanta. And then it becomes very exciting when the student is told by the teacher that that Brahman is not far. This world is an appearance of the Brahman. Everyone is an appearance of the Brahman, and you are an appearance of the Brahman. In fact, the Brahman is situated within you. So then the God became so near, so all-pervasive, or the God experience, we can say. And this traveling from an empirical, pragmatic, bound by the laws of time, space and causation, into a reality that is transcending all of this, and it is ultimate and the absolute truth, became a favorite pursuit of the sages. What happens? Why should even one want to look at, juggle the universe and try to figure it out? Why should one even bother with these three states of reality? Because once our perception, our thinking becomes expanded, like the potter who doesn't just see the cup and the mug and the jug, but sees clay everywhere, in the same way, we will begin to have a unitary experience all the time. Very simple things like envy, jealousy, fear, all of these things which haunt us in the other two states of reality will disappear. Because we would have become one with our own truth. So just as the reflectional reality or the reflectional appearance does not hold ground when the empirical reality emerges or shines forth, in the same way, once the paramarthika reality dawns within us, the empirical world no longer remains the snake that we have to be afraid of. It totally becomes a playground for us. I am not going into those details right now, but the dawn of this reality happens living here and now. We do not have to leave our body, and we continue with our day-to-day existence as mothers, fathers, teachers, students, clerks and business people. And yet at the same time, because of that oneness with our truth, the paranoia, the suffering, the distress ends. So they are not coexisting. They are aspects of the same reality, because the reflectional reality as well as the empirical reality are both appearances of the ultimate substratum. Yes, empirical has a little more strength and substantiveness, but not really. But the beauty is, where are we? If some of us are stuck only in the pratibhasika reality, and we are only believing in appearances, reflections, daydreams and imaginations, then we are very far from the truth. It is better to wake up from the daydream and then fall asleep in the empirical world because we are asleep here. But then when we wake up from here is when we can truly wake up. Is that clear? So this is what it is. What is enlightenment then? Enlightenment then, from the perspective of the investigation of reality, is that I will begin to discriminate between what is anitya or non-eternal, and I will begin to become anchored and established in knowing within me and worshipping everywhere and all over in a all-pervasive manner that which is nitya or eternal. That becomes myself, that is my God, that is my object of devotion, and that is the final union with my true self. The words salvation and liberation are used, especially in America, I have seen. But salvation is not a word from the Hindu and Vedantic thought. The reason is that salvation is where somebody has to save us. And liberation is where, just through our thought process, we become free from the constraints that we had bought into because of the ignorance of how limited we thought we were when we were really unlimited beings. So liberation is merely unzipping the layers of ignorance that we are born into and sustained in this empirical universe, which is true but not true, which is here but changes. So as I had mentioned last time, that the special qualified realities which we cannot say are asat, they don't exist at all, like a square circle. Does it exist? Does it exist? That is non-existence. And existence can be only that which always is, and that is Brahman. And Brahman from the root word Bri, which means always expanding, eternal, always full. And the in-between appearing and disappearing realities are called what? Mithya. And so we call these states Mithya and not illusion, because to the illusionist none of this exists. It's like it has just been created. It's a state of the mind, right? It's a the English words are, help me?
Projection.
It's just a projection. But this is not a projection. The only thing is that As long as we are identified with this being our only reality, this remains our only reality. For example, until such time the person wakes up from the dream and they are thirsty in it, they will remain thirsty even if water is sitting next to them on the bedside table. But till such time one wakes up from the dream and realizes it is a dream, till such time they will suffer the thirst. And till such time we feel bound, unhappy, suffering, aging, dying, mortals in this empirical reality, then so it shall be. But the invitation of Vedanta is the knowledge that is given to us. And the knowledge not only of the Paramarthika reality, but that this reality dwells within you and dwells everywhere. And gradually we begin to meditate upon that, and because it is our true essence, very quickly we become identified with that. Quickly as in the process in itself is very, very straightforward. It may be quick, maybe not, and why is it rare is because until such time ignorance remains. And that ignorance is quite pervasive and keeps making us be in these rift between these two states. And we die. After a while we die. Oh, death. Then we are born again. Again it begins. Again it begins. From the reflectional, empirical is an improvement. From the dream, thank God I woke up. I was dreaming I am very rich, I better pay my bills and take care of my wealth now in the empirical reality. Very true. And then again we are running hither and thither in both the states. And then we die. Born again. Again it begins. Reflectional, empirical, reflectional, empirical. Reflectional gives us subtle suffering and joy. Empirical gives us gross suffering and joy. Again we die. Again we are born. Same thing begins. Reflectional, empirical. Suffering and joy in reflectional, suffering and joy. In empirical, none last, everything changes. Again we die. Again we are born. Are you getting tired of this? This is what we are bound in. This is called samsara, or the repetitive nature of the world. Repetitive nature, repetitive, cyclical. And we don't question, we mourn, we groan, we fight wars, but it is nothing. Some fight wars in their mind, oh, more pratibhasika. Some fight wars out there. It's okay. And again we die. But then comes a time when you get this knowledge. Please see. And some say that Advaita Vedanta is not a very theistic system and there is no God, there is no grace. But actually Shankara himself has said that then due to the grace of God, we get this knowledge. Who is that God he's talking about? Shankara says, that Brahman, that Absolute, when it is filled with various qualities to be in the empirical world, we call God. So it is the highest in the empirical world, but it is still limited in this pragmatic sphere. So we reach that God. Due to grace we get this knowledge. And then if we really hear it, we begin to do some sadhana. That sadhana is internal. It's internal. As you look at each other, as you walk out, you have to view these three realities and see what is going on. And are you getting very stuck in the structures? But all of this shall change. the Vyavahara, this reality, is an important reality. It may not be absolutely real, but it is a reality. These two realities, reflectional and empirical, they are bound in time. And when we become timeless, we are in Paramarthika reality. Let us revisit this word mithya that I talked to you about. According to Shankara, this great commentator and sage, who has made extensive commentaries on the source texts of Vedanta, which includes Upanishads, Brahma Sutras and Bhagavad Gita. According to him, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So he says that there is only one Satyam, one truth, which is Brahman, and Jagat. Jagat means this world. Everything we can see with our senses, everything that we can conceive with our mind and intellect, that is Jagat, right? What you call as the universe, right? Even what you can conceive of, all of this is mithya. And that means that all of this is here today, but it can change tomorrow. It is only an appearance. So we will talk further about what do we mean by an appearance. We will talk about it. But Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya becomes a guiding corollary, guiding tenet in Vedanta, where the person starts thinking and starts experiencing their deeper self as Brahman. So Brahma Satyam, I am the truth and everything else is an appearance. That doesn't mean they become glazy-eyed and goo-goo and start behaving like this is an appearance, that is an appearance, and start walking into walls. All it means is, if this is all an appearance, am I going to be so vested in it? Am I going to be so invested in it? Am I going to be so caught up in trying to grab a handful of dust and a handful of fame? Or am I going to try to find in this lifetime, now that I have this knowledge, this Brahma within me? What will happen then? And so Vedanta and its followers are often found in society rather bold. They are bold. You know why they are bold? They can dare to be unconventional because they have no fear of the monsters of society and what will they say and what will they think. But they are also responsible. You know why? Because they understand that the same Brahma lives in everyone. So bold, even a teenager can be bold and unconventional. But then they hurt and damage the society. Boldness without responsibility is nothing but foolhardiness. But the true unconventional bold one who walks the pathless path and leads the entire humanity and its community towards the highest truth, that one often is a Vedanta. Because they know Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The rest of us who believe in Jagan is the Satyam, this world is the truth, I must be only the not truth. I am not deserving, I am miserable, I am suffering, I am horrible, I am useless, let me commit suicide. The opposite. And that is the spiritual disease. When the royal king that we are, king and queen, because Brahman is not male or female, but the royal one that that I am, and the kingdom truly that I have, and I will never ever have to suffer here. Once I know that this is my kingdom, I am here to sport and to enjoy. And then to the knower of Brahma, they realize that there is nothing but bliss that I have to partake, to give and to receive. But we talk about in day-to-day spirituality, come on people, your heart is full of bliss, release it, and all you release is a burp and some acid comes out. Because unless we truly understand what I am not, which is that small person broken, I will not be able to understand what I am. Because what I am not is the mode in which we have been born into the empirical world. It is the basic conditioning. It is the basic ignorance, which is also called avidya, that will not let us realize our greatness. So only great sages who have broken through that darkness and that holding down of by the ignorance, where I myself am the greatest, and I say, where is God? Where can I find God? Can I buy some power? Can I buy some health? Can I buy some entertainment? Can I buy some friendship? And all of that reservoir is within, but it is easy to talk, hard to discover, because the reason is that we are caught up in reflectional and empirical realities, and that is the theater of our existence. That is where we are meeting mountains of, distress and rivers of jealousy and, and thorns of smallness that are pricking us many a times. But it's exactly in this empirical jungle that through the wise teachings of Vedanta and sincere following of these tenets within us, that many a times a person becomes quiet and starts reflecting within. And suddenly they may look the same, but they are no longer the same. Nothing has changed in them. They have not grown a new nose, or they do not have a certain colored aura, or they are not releasing perfumes from their body. Just their perception has changed. It's an event. It's an event in our cosmic journey. And that is made possible by Vedanta. Because oneness, that Paramarthika reality, I am one. And if we believe in oneness, if Vedanta is all about that one, then can I be separate from that one? Can there be a demon that is separate from that one? A devil? Everything is an appearance of that one. And therefore I am that one. So man or woman, if you are very particular, and universe are both aspects of the same reality, Brahman. We have understood that if there is an appearance, as in the mirror, and the image in the mirror, as in the snake that was actually a rope, as in the silver that was nothing but a mother of pearl. Everywhere there is some underlying substance. We have understood this. So therefore, let us understand the substratum of we, us, me and the universe, the human and the universe, you and the universe, that Brahman, that substance, the original substance. So how do we see we are participating in it? Our mind, our intellect, our speech are because of it. They are of much lower order. So we cannot even cognize or imagine what Brahman is like. If I begin to draw and I say, okay, Brahman is a female, then I give her a musical instrument, and then I put a garland in her, and then I think her sari should be white, and then somebody says, oh, you have created an Indian goddess. Yes, that's right. Because even my thinking is colored with where I come from. And then a Greek person starts thinking what Brahman is like, and they will draw, a Greek goddess or a Greek god, and Vedanta says, very nice, good job, because that's the best you can do in this empirical reality. But don't think, now Vedanta says, don't think that the sari-clad goddess is the only goddess, by the way. Because the same God lives in this little caterpillar too. So then, instead of saying that Vedanta is not theistic because it doesn't believe in this one God who will save the world and loves us and protects us and destroys us or punishes us if we are angry, there are no such statements. In fact, it is so theistic that it says, what is there but God? What is there but God? And then suddenly statements from very, very important personalities like Jesus suddenly make sense when I study Vedanta, because when they say, forgive them for they know not what they are doing. Because suddenly the whole fire behind non-violence comes alive. Because we are now living in a world that is illumined by the principle of that one has entered all, is eminent in it and transcendent to it. It is intimately within me and everywhere in you and all everywhere. So one becomes deeply spiritual, deeply reverential, and begins to have a deep quest now to not only know it at an abstract level, but to know it experientially. And the prayers are such that in this limited equipment, please show me. Please let me know it. Let my consciousness leap beyond my limited faculties to know my own self, because the knowing of the own self is not this ego-driven self of, my space, your space, my creativity, your creativity, my thoughts, your thoughts, but that myself with a capital S, which is none but Atman, which is I am Atman Brahman, I am none, myself is none but Brahman. So therefore, one closes one's eyes and begins to feel something very stable and unchanging within. And there begins a very deep engagement with our true self. Each object of the world, if I may bring your attention, has 5 aspects. It is or it exists. Do you agree? Living or non-living, it has a isness to it, and that is called existence. Asti. It shines by illumination. Even darkness has an illumination. That's how you are aware of it. Do you see? Everything has an illumination. It is illumined as if from within. That is why it becomes manifest to us, because of an inner illumination. And this illumination is bhati, asti bhati priyam rupam. So there is isness, there is illumination, and finally there is priyam. Everything, every object in this universe, not one object is tandem or redundant or unnecessary. In fact, it is beloved to someone else in this universe. A blade of grass, you may be unaware of it, but it is beloved to the little insect that climbs it up and down. Everything has isness, existence. Everything has unique illumination, and everything has a special quality, priyam, which is a joyful, loving aspect, where every object is beloved to someone, or it is needed, or it is part of a very beautiful plan. So, these three, they are there, and along with that, every object has a rupa, form, and every object has a nama, name. It is interesting how it's so beautifully put in Vedanta, where it says that the first three qualities, asti, bhati, priyam, these are seen in every object, every pebble, every grass, every being, every flower grabs our attention because of the illumination. So, this is in every object. It is a universal. However, nama, names may change, and rupa, forms may change. So even when we look at the world, and you look at any human being next to you, your classmate, you can say their form is different, name is different, but they have the same three common things which we all have, which is existence, asti, illumination, divine illumination, bhati, and priyam. And because these are individuation in objects of asti, bhati, priyam, we are always understanding what is a reflection and what is the actual absolute infinite dimension which is substantial of that reflection. So asti becomes sat, absolute existence. Bhati becomes chitta, or absolute illumination, absolute intelligent illumination. And priyam, the joy-giving attribute, becomes in the absolute Brahman reality. It is known as Ananda. So, if I have to describe Brahman, I can make those drawings and create goddesses which match my religion, and create a beautiful poetry, literature, and belief system, and through that connect to the highest. So it has total validity in the empirical world. Religion has validity, and yet, because you do connect with the highest through that chosen idol or chosen way, however, if a Vedantin was asked to describe Brahman, they would not be able to draw, because name and form changes, and they would say, that is Brahman, this is Brahman, that is Brahman. And so we have beautiful hymns in the Upanishads which talk about the pebble is Brahman, the river is Brahman, the sand is Brahman, the tree is Brahman, the flower is Brahman, the bee is Brahman, and it goes on and on and on and on, because this was a rapturous excitement of a sage who saw the absolute reality everywhere and was no longer struck with diversity and separation and feeling small, but feeling very grand and very large. And so, if the Vedantic person has to explain Brahman, then they would say Brahman, Sadachittananda, absolute existence which never ends, absolute consciousness, absolute illumination of that consciousness. Consciousness is, so therefore there is illumination. And absolute bliss. So Sat-Chit Ananda becomes then the description of Brahman. And these are qualities of Brahman which are not added. These are what Brahman is. Existence, which is conscious and which is blissful. It is that oneness. So these three qualities do not divide up Brahman. They do not decorate Brahman. They cannot be removed from Brahman. They cannot be subtracted. We cannot create two Brahmans. It is absolute existence, absolute consciousness, and absolute bliss, because they each feed each other. So the one caught up in the empirical reality and the reflectional reality is forever being crisscrossed by nama rupa, name and form, and feeling aversions and likes and dislikes. I like the white people, but I don't like the black people. I like those people on that side of the neighborhood, but not this side of the neighborhood. I like reptiles, but I don't like dogs. I like dogs, but I don't like reptiles. But the one who is in Brahman consciousness, they may really love dogs, but they will definitely not dislike reptiles. Because what they see in reptile is what they see everywhere. And they are seeing the essence, which is Sat Chit Ananda. And so the universe of the one who has understood that this Nama Rupa, it comes from my ignorance, because of my anchoring in this level of reality, that I cannot see what really is. Just like when you are in a dream, no matter how much you try to add 2 plus 2, you are not able to, though your mind and faculty is there, and you are a PhD in mathematics. But all night you tried to calculate 2 plus 2 and you could not. That can happen. Because in that state of reality, those are your limitations due to that ignorance. Similarly, in the empirical reality, we have a limitation of only getting caught up with Nama, Rupa, name and form. But Vedanta sages come and tell us, look, fortunately, you are able to make a journey from the empirical into the absolute reality and relax. Just like through Samyak Gyan or right knowledge, you are able to understand, to not panic anymore by seeing the rope because it's not a snake. In the same way, you will be able to, through right knowledge, be able to truly understand what realm you are dwelling in and who you really are and what you are really bathed in, transacting with, and you have an opportunity to know it deeply and fall in love with it, or be filled with terror and react to it in the default way. So with this, we end.